Good morning, everybody.
Hello and welcome.
It's Highfield Kids online. We've moved. We're by the radiator because it's so cold.
I think I even caught a few snowflakes this morning.
I think there were definitely snowflakes coming out of the sky, which is super exciting, but a bit strange because next week it's half term. So whatever you do, keep warm, go out, enjoy yourself. But it's a bit different at Highfield Kids, isn't it, Steph?
It is. We are going to have a screen-free Sunday. So no Highfield Kids, but I'm sure there are many exciting things you can think of to do which do not involve your computer screen.
You could go out and plant something to watch it grow in the spring. You could go for some walks, or you could read a storybook Bible that you've got at home. It doesn't need to be a proper grown-up Bible, and you could find out what your favourite Bible story is, and you could let us know by emailing me at children@highfield.church, or I'll put something on the Facebook page that your parents can add into, and that might give us some ideas.
Sounds good by me. So let us know what you get up to next Sunday. We can't wait to hear from you.
And it gives you an extra week to practice
your memory verse.
Now, we forgot it last week, so you've had an extra week to practice. I wonder, could you do it with just the actions? Do you think we could do it with the actions without the words?
I think so. Let's give it a
try?
go.
So in your head, say it, but we're going to say...
We've gone wrong, I think.
No, we can't do it. We might have to say the words.
I think we can't do this.
Yeah, shall we say the words?
For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not die, but have eternal life.
We've got our versions mixed up a little bit, but it's about for God so loving the world that he sent his one and only Son, Jesus. See if you can do it better than we can.
I bet you can.
Feels like it's time for a game. Up on your feet, Highfield Kids. Who knows the game Beans? Have you played Beans before, Steph?
I haven't, so it's a new game for me. I'm very excited.
So it's kind of like Simon Says, but without Simon and without saying, but with beans. Now, I'm sure the children at home know how to play Beans. It's where I shout a type of bean and you have an action. Ooh. So if I shout jelly bean, we would wibbly wobble. And if I shouted coffee bean, we would very safely do our coffee bean. If we did runner bean, jumping bean, can you do a string bean? If it was super hot, which it isn't, you'd be a baked bean. And there's one more. I just need to check my list. Ooh la la.
That would be a French bean. That would be a French
bean. Are you ready, Highfield Kids? On your feet. We are being a string bean. And a jelly bean. Ooh la la.
Ooh la la.
Coffee bean.
Coffee bean.
Oh, what I didn't tell you, broad bean. And jelly bean.
Ooh.
And because we're so warm, we're going to do, a baked bean. How well did you do at home? That's quite good fun. You could maybe play it over half term. Think up any other kind of beans as well. So that game includes a bit of like following instructions, and I wonder what the connection between our beans game and our fishing nets are, and feet,
and an octopus.
We have some creatures of the sea. Steph's going to read us a story and see if you can work out.
Jesus' special friends. Jesus grew up in a place called Galilee, where there was a large and beautiful lake. And it was there he began the work God gave him to do. God is like a king, he told the people, and he wants all of you to be in his kingdom, to love him and to love each other. People liked to hear Jesus' talk. In fact, one morning, the crowd was so huge that Jesus was nearly pushed into the sea. Oh no! Excuse me, Jesus asked the fisherman, could I borrow your boat for a while? The fisherman's name was Peter. Of course, he said. It's doing me no good. I was out all night and I caught nothing. Jesus climbed into the boat. Peter rowed him a little way from the shore, and from there Jesus talked to the crowd. When he had finished, Jesus sent the people home. And then he turned to Peter. "Let's go out a little further," he whispered. "I'd like to catch some fish." Peter tossed back his head and laughed. "I told you, my men and I were out all night. We caught nothing." Jesus didn't say a word. He just smiled and looked across the lake. "All right," Peter sighed, "if that's what you want." So Peter sailed across the lake to the deepest part. Then he dropped his fishing nets down on the side. It took no time at all. The nets started pulling and jerking and stretching, and it was all Peter could do from keeping the boat from tipping over. "Help!" Peter called to some friends nearby. "Help, please!" And they rowed to him as fast as they could. Then, all together, the men pulled on the nets, and the fish came tumbling and slapping onto the decks of both boats. Red fish and blue fish, and not just one or two fish, so many, in fact, that the boats would have sunk had the fishermen not rowed quickly to the shore. Peter looked at the fish. Peter looked at his friends. Then Peter looked at Jesus and fell to his knees trembling. Only God or someone full of his power could do that, Peter said. And why would someone like that want to go fishing with the likes of me? Jesus shook his head and smiled. "Don't be scared," he said. "God has given me a lot of work to do, and I need helpers. Helpers like you and your friends. Once you fished for fish, but from now on, you'll be fishing for people and helping me bring them to God." Then Jesus stepped out of the boat and walked away across the shore. "Come with me," he called. Peter and his friends watched him go. They looked at the fish. They looked at each other. Then they dropped their nets, left their boats behind, and raced up to follow Jesus. Helen's now going to give a little bit of a talk about that story.
Did you guess the connection from all of our things? Our game of beans, our following footsteps, our fishing nets, and our creature from the sea. That's right, our story linked all of these things together a little bit. Our story is Jesus starting to choose his disciples. And this is in the 4 special books that talk about Jesus' life, so it must be really important. And in this version, we're looking at Jesus calling Peter and some fishermen, just ordinary fishermen who would fish and would eat and sleep and would sell their fish and would wake up again, and then they'd start it all over again, just ordinary fishermen. And Jesus chose ordinary people to follow him. We use the word disciple loads, and we never really say what it means, but we can probably guess. These are Jesus' special friends who followed him and lived with him to learn from him. And Jesus was going to train them to how to talk about how amazing God was to all of the people. Now in this story, Jesus performs a massive miracle. Peter couldn't cope with all of the fish that filled his nets. The fish that hadn't been there in the night when he was fishing. But suddenly he needs people to help him. And Peter realises that Jesus is different, that Jesus is special, that Jesus is from God, because only God could create that much fish from where there was none. And when Jesus said, "Come with me," or "Follow me," he did. Without thinking about it, him and his fisherman pals just got up and started to follow Jesus. A little bit later, in the Gospel of Luke, where this story's from, Jesus calls a man called Levi, who becomes known as Matthew, who's a tax collector, who would have sat collecting his taxes, counting his money, just an ordinary man, just an ordinary tax collector. But when Jesus said to Matthew, "Follow me," do you know what he did? He just got up and he did it, and he followed Jesus, leaving his job behind, leaving his livelihood behind. He got up and did it. I wonder, close your eyes a minute, can you imagine that you're Peter, the fisherman? There's creatures, there's fishing nets, can you imagine? And Jesus says, "Come and follow me." I wonder how he felt. I wonder if he was really excited. Was he really nervous? Was he really worried? Do you know what? I don't think it matters what he was feeling. The important thing is he got up and he followed Jesus. He was called and he followed. I wonder how you would feel if Jesus said that to you too. Do you know what's amazing about Jesus today? He still calls people to follow him. That's you and me and Steph who read our story and Luke behind the camera. He says to all of us, follow me. How amazing is that? I wonder how that makes you feel. Close your eyes to think, I'm being asked to follow Jesus. How do I feel? Are you excited? Are you a bit not sure what that looks like? Because that invitation is open to everybody. And you know the easy bit? All we have to do is say yes. Jesus wants us to follow him just like he wanted his friends. And all we have to do is say yes. So we're going to do some chat and catch. We did it a couple of weeks ago. And we sometimes close our our eyes, and we nod our heads. And sometimes we think. And what we're doing is we're sharing our thoughts with Jesus because he knows everything we think and feel. And if you're really little, that might be a bit hard. So what you can do is you can whisper it into your hands. Give it away. That's another way of talking to Jesus, but close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to think in your heads, what was your favourite part of today's story? And just say in your heads to Jesus, oh, I really like this part of the story. It might be a big bit, it might be a bit of detail. What's your favourite part of the story? And then in your heads or in your hands, I want you to tell Jesus why you like that part of the story. I like the part of the story where Jesus chooses Peter, completely ordinary man, but he chooses him and Peter says yes. So share with Jesus in your head your favourite part of the story. And then, in the next moment, think about that invitation. Jesus says to you, follow me. Tell Jesus how you feel about that. Are you excited? Are you a bit nervous? Or are you ready to say yes? And if you're ready to say yes, can you remember when we asked for the Holy Spirit? Just in your head, say yes. And do like a little yes, I am going to follow you. And I'm just going to pray for all of those things that you shared with Jesus. Dear Jesus, I thank you that the children have shared in their thoughts and their words how they feel about being asked to follow you. Give them all that they need to make that decision today. Amen.
I lay my life down at your feet. You're the only one I need. I turn to you and you are always there. In troubled times it's you I seek. I put you first, that's all I need. I humble all I am, all to you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. You are always, always there, every how and everywhere. Grace abounds so deeply within me. You will never ever change. Yesterday, today the same. Forever till forever meets no end. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for.
was great, Helen.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really liked the bit of the story where Jesus filled so many fishes. I can just imagine the boats being overflowing with them. So, we're going to do a craft activity. We need some paper, a pen, and a foot.
Or two.
Or two.
Your feet. We need your feet.
So, you're going to draw round your foot. We've cheated slightly because it's too cold to take our shoes and socks off. And then you can pray that God will direct your footsteps and show you where to go. And that you can stand firm and fast in the ups and the downs of life. So, if you want to send us your foot prayers, don't forget to wash your feet afterwards or before. Send them to Helen.
You can send them to me at children@highfield.church, and I'd love to see pictures of you on there as well, and maybe some of the words that you've prayed, and maybe your grown-ups could help you. And we want you to look at those as well over half term, and remember that Jesus wants us to follow him, whatever we're doing this half term, wherever we are, whether we're warm, whether we're cold, whether we're indoors or we're outdoors. The invitation to follow him is there ready just for you to say yes. So whatever you do at half term, have a fab time, enjoy Screen Free Sunday,